Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to Slappy's Garage. In this episode, we're just going to go through this iron head. You might remember it from my old video. I started cleaning it up. I polished the exhaust, lost all that because I got a new phone, whatever. But it started a little rough. It's rusting all over the place over here and everything. So I think it's time to clean up this bike and put it back to the condition it should have been. I polished the wheels, polished some of it, but it's time to get back to where it deserves. I'll be making a video of me just going through this bike and getting it ready for sitting in my garage because I don't ride that much.
On a serious note, I want this bike finished for Culture Fest, October 19th, Long Island City. If you're close, come by. So I take it as a win-win because I wasn't really going to touch this bike, but I had to practice painting for my next tin set. So I decided to take this apart for a Rubber Culture show. And now I'm going to take this gas tank off, which is 2 bolts and gas line. Oil tank, I have to remove the battery before taking out the harness out of the way, which is not unplugged, it's just moved out of the way. And the oil lines have to come off that oil tank too once I take the rear fender off, because that oil tank's connected with the fender. Once all this is out of the way, I'm going to pull everything out and then focus on cleaning up the motor. Now this motor is getting very crusty, so I do need to take my time doing a lot more to it. I take these intake manifold out of the way. The carburetor was already off when I was working on it before, and I lost that when my phone got corrupted. Once this intake manifold is off, I'm just checking the seals, see how the condition is, see if I need to get new ones. I'm going to plug up every port, so my intakes and my exhaust ports. I don't want any of the sanding, any of the paint going in there, so it's best to just put a rag in there for now, and I'm going to tape it off eventually. I'm pulling off all these push rods. It's very simple because they're all adjustable on these iron heads. Just loosen them up, make sure your lifter is released, so you might have to move the back wheel to take the other push rods out and loosen them up. Once all the push rods are off, I go for the oil lines, take them off, and after those oil lines are taken off, I'm going to just put tape on top of all the holes of the open lifters and the oil, just so I don't get any dirt, grime, dust, paint in those holes as well. Just to quickly go through everything, I'm going to take the one side off and then the other off video because it takes too much time to show you every single step. So after this is all done, I'm going to take the wire brush and clean it off. I've already done this prior a couple times before, just to take off the loose paint when the bike was still together. But I'm doing it one more time, and then I'm going to spray it down with a degreaser. This is a paint prep spray. I just spray it on to the motor and wipe it off with a rag. I do my best. A little bit off video of the wire brushing, but you guys get the point. It's just to take all this loose grime off and clean it up for paint so it has better adhesion. After I clean off all the dust and the oil and the residue on the motor, I'm taping it off. It's actually best to clean those mating surfaces so your tape doesn't blow out when you're spraying and actually sticks to the motor. Wherever you don't want painted, it still might not stick if you have a dirty surface. So it's best to clean both at the same time. I'm just taping off everything I don't want painted, especially the ports, all the bare aluminum that I want to keep nice and semi-polished, just clean looking. As I go, I just cut off any of the excess tape that I don't need, especially on these ports. Everything else I don't really need to cut. Once the motor's all taped off and all the pieces that you don't want painted are taped off, you're going to go for the frame. I'm using paper and just wrapping it around. It's easier to peel than tape. It's also much more effective for covering big areas that you don't want painted. It's covering the starter as well, and the cam cover, which is off screen because I didn't set the camera right. Oh well. So I'm going to keep taping this off, just wrapping everything and make sure anything I don't want overspray on, especially the frame where it's so close to the motor, is taped off. I'm not worried about everything too far away, but I'm going to start painting with a Harley Texture Black. Now this paint is Harley Davidson paint. It's very good for what it is. It's much better than the flat black, which I'm not a fan of. I've used it and it bubbles up and just doesn't adhere right, but this paint is very good. The texture is filling all the voids. I'm just going to do 2 to 3 coats depending on how much this can left, because I use a can for other things and I'm just using the rest. It went a long way for having just one can. I finished the jugs and the heads. They're all painted off. Once I peel this tape, you'll see the actual finish of it compared to the bare aluminum. So peeling this off is probably one of the most satisfying things you get of this project. everything, all the tape, including the bolts on the motor, the rocker boxes, and the frame. It just really makes the bike pop now that these are black. And we're going to have to go into putting everything back on this bike after this. So this is really part of the process of seeing the difference between before and after. And I'm really excited to get this thing cleaned up a little more. I still have more polishing and stuff going on. So after this is all clean and clear, I'm going to move on to the lifter blocks. With the lifter blocks, I'm going to take the bolt out, pull it out, check the lifter itself while I do this, and I'm in there, check the seal, make sure the O-ring is still good, and I'm going to take a piece of rag, shove it down there so you don't get the debris down the cylinder, and use a little WD-40 on a piece of Scotch-Brite. Doing this, it helps break up that stubborn burnt-on grease, and it cleans it up real nice. You don't need a lot of pressure. So once this is all done, I'm going to reinstall the lifter block with the lifter, of course, and move on to the push rods. Now, with the push rods, I pulled the adjusters all the way out to tape over and have it nice and flush from when I was painting it. So I'm reinstalling the adjusters all the way down so you have a nice amount of room for the push rod. You might have to rock the back wheel to get the push rods to release and get less tension so you can slide them in. But they slide right in, and you put the adjuster back out so they hold in place. And then you continue to adjust later on when you're at top dead center. And we'll go through that in the next video. So other than all the paint and the cleanup I did add one new part to the actual motor itself. It's just an oil line going from the rocker box to the motor. And these are a braided line instead of solid chrome lines. It's a little less shiny. I thought the bike had too much polish look and chrome look. So I think this takes away from that super slick shine, especially if that exhaust pipe I polished. And I just put a little Teflon tape. Now you can really see the difference now. The motor is so much cleaner. I'm really happy with it, but I also want to polish this primary cover, and the rockers and everything just get repolished. So I'm going to just take you through the process real quick on the primary cover itself, and then just know I did everything else. So I'm using the drill at a lower speed. I'm not going too crazy. Pushing a little bit of pressure and using this PF40, I think it's called, from Zephyr. It's a great product. All I am doing is using the ball. I didn't have to sand it because I've sanded it a long time ago. It wasn't really pitted, so just quick polish really just brighten up the motor, and it brightens up everything else on the motor as well when I polish it all. Now, I will recommend if you have a little bit more grime, you can just take some WD-40 on a Scotch-Brite pad, and that will clean up the polish and actually help you polish it a lot faster. I also did the rocker boxes, but I did use the Dremel a little bit more on this because it was too tight to get this polisher in there. Moving on from the polish, I do the other parts of the bike too, but we're going to go on to a little bit of paint touch up. Now, this frame is a little more raggedy. It's not really very bright. The finish is a little dull. So I'm going to take this wheel off and show you on the swing arm. So on the swing arm, you're going to clean it, Scotch-Brite it, clean it off again to get all that residue off, and then you can hit it with some Rust-Oleum. Once you hit it with some Rust-Oleum, then you're going to Scotch-Brite it very lightly just to give it more of a dull finish to match your frame if you're in the same condition I am. I also think if you just have that bright frame, those bright tins, it might take away from it. So when I do paint my tins, you'll see the big difference from start to finish.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. On next video, I will be actually taking those tins and prepping them and painting them. So I will have much more exciting content to come soon. All I did on this was clean up the motor, making it look a little bit nicer. It's a 1980s motor that probably never been cleaned up in its lifetime. If I were to really want to do it, I would pull this motor apart, go through it, and then I'd also powder coat the jugs and heads. But I'm not doing that right now because I'm on a tight budget, yes and no. And I also have many more projects I want to get to. So I'm practicing on this. So next video, I will be posting that paint job I do, which I'm really excited to show you guys. I've already got started on everything. Thank you guys for watching this video. It's just getting cleaned up little bit by little bit, and I hope to be able to show you the finished project very soon.